Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston meet an extra from their early films. What happened will surprise you. The warm Los Angeles sun filtered through the tall glass windows of the Beverly Hilton Hotel. The lobby buzzed with anticipation. Paparazzi crowded outside in packs, their cameras ready to catch a glimpse of the stars arriving for the golden reel, a celebration of Hollywood icons. Adam Sandler adjusted the collar of his casual jacket as he stepped out of the black SUV. Next to him, Jennifer Aniston slipped on a pair of oversized sunglasses and smiled politely at the reporters, shouting their names. "Same circus, different day," Jennifer muttered under her breath. Adam chuckled. "You'd think after all these years we'd get used to it." They had been invited as guests of honor. Their on-screen chemistry, from Just Go With It to Murder Mystery, had made them one of the most beloved duos in Hollywood. As they walked the red carpet, flashing smiles and waving at fans, neither noticed the man standing quietly near the entrance, holding a folded invitation in his trembling hands. Daniel Reyes stood apart from the crowd. His once dark hair was now flecked with gray, his suit a bit outdated but neatly pressed. In his pocket was a simple invitation embossed with gold lettering. "You are cordially invited to the Golden Reel. We honor everyone who has contributed to the magic of cinema." Daniel had almost not come. It had been over 25 years since he had walked away from Hollywood. Back then, he'd been just a face in the background, an extra in films like Big Daddy and Along Came Polly. He had never shared more than a passing glance or a quick greeting with the stars. Life had since taken him far from movie sets and red carpets, but tonight something had pulled him back. Inside the grand ballroom, the atmosphere was electric. Tables draped in silk, chandeliers casting golden light, walls lined with giant posters of classic films. Waiters in crisp uniforms circulated with trays of champagne. Adam and Jennifer mingled with directors, producers, and fellow actors. As the evening wore on, Daniel walked the perimeter of the room, feeling out of place among the glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. He paused at a large photo of a scene from Just Go With It. There, frozen in time, was a young Daniel sitting behind Adam and Jennifer on a fake beach set, his face half hidden by a pair of sunglasses. "You've got to be kidding me," Daniel whispered. "Hey, that's a familiar face," came a voice behind him. Daniel turned to see Adam Sandler, squinting at the photo with a lopsided grin. Jennifer joined them a moment later, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Is that you?" Jennifer asked, tilting her head. "From the beach scene?" Daniel nodded, suddenly self-conscious. "Yeah, that was me. I was just an extra back." Then Adam laughed warmly. "No way! That was what, 1999? Man, time flies." For the first time in decades, Daniel felt something stir inside him, a mixture of pride and disbelief. "I never thought I'd see you two again, let alone talk to you." Jennifer's expression softened. "Well, you're part of the journey too. Everyone who steps onto a set helps tell the story." As the three of them stood by the photo, an unexpected sense of ease settled over the group. Conversations turned to memories of chaotic shoots, missed cues, and improvised jokes that made it into the final cut. Daniel shared stories of working odd jobs on sets, sleeping in his car between shoots, and eventually leaving the industry to work as a high school teacher in Fresno. "You gave up Hollywood for teaching?" Adam said, genuinely impressed. "That's way tougher than what we do." Daniel smiled modestly. "It was the right choice for me." The MC's voice interrupted, announcing that dinner would be served. As people made their way to their seats, Jennifer touched Daniel's arm lightly. "Don't go yet. We want to hear more." Daniel hesitated. For the first time in years, he felt like he belonged, not as a background figure, but as a person whose story mattered. He followed them toward the reserved tables, unaware that this simple encounter would change the course of all their lives. The dinner service had begun, but Daniel hardly touched his plate. He sat at a circular table draped in white linen, surrounded by Hollywood's elite. Yet Adam and Jennifer, seated right beside him, made it feel surprisingly informal. The soft clinking of silverware and low hum of conversation filled the ballroom. "So," Jennifer began, leaning forward slightly, "you became a teacher. What made you walk away from the industry?" Daniel hesitated for a moment, glancing at the towering centerpiece of white roses and flickering candles. "I guess it just wasn't my world. I loved being part of it, but it always felt temporary. I needed something real, something lasting." Adam nodded thoughtfully. "I get that. Fame isn't everything. I've seen people lose themselves chasing it." Daniel smiled faintly. "I found more meaning in a classroom than I ever did waiting hours on set for a 2-second shot." Their conversation drifted between light-hearted anecdotes and reflective moments. Daniel described his students, the kids who reminded him of young dreamers, some desperate to break out of small-town limits, just like he had been at their age. "You've probably impacted more lives than any blockbuster movie ever could," Jennifer said sincerely. "That's pretty remarkable." Before Daniel could respond, the MC called for a short intermission. The room dimmed as a giant screen descended. A montage of career highlights for Adam and Jennifer played, accompanied by laughter and applause. Clips from Happy Gilmore, The Wedding Singer, Friends, Murder Mystery, and dozens more danced across the screen. The audience cheered at iconic lines and bloopers. Daniel watched with a detached kind of admiration. They had built empires, legacies. His path had been far less glamorous, but he didn't feel bitter. If anything, he felt a quiet pride in having witnessed it from the ground floor. As the lights came back up, Adam leaned over. "Hey, I was thinking, what are you doing tomorrow?" Daniel looked surprised. "Tomorrow? Nothing, really. I was planning to drive back to Fresno." "Forget Fresno for a day," Adam said with a grin. "Come visit the set. We're finishing up Murder Mystery 3 down the road. It'd be fun to have you stop by." Jennifer nodded enthusiastically. "It's been years since we've seen you on a set. Come on for old time's sake." Daniel hesitated. The logical, grounded part of him said no. But another part, the same part that once convinced a 19-year-old kid to move to LA with $500 and a dream, was tempted. I'd love that," he said quietly. As the evening wound down, Daniel stood at the edge of the ballroom, watching guests filter out into the cool LA night. Adam and Jennifer said their goodbyes with effortless charm and warmth. When they turned back to Daniel, Adam clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Sunset Studios. You're gonna love it." Daniel walked back to his modest hotel alone, his mind spinning. For years he had accepted that certain doors were closed. Now, unexpectedly, one had swung open again. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was just a quirky Hollywood moment, or the start of something bigger. The faded skyline of downtown LA glowed in the distance as Daniel drifted off to sleep, unaware that the next day would challenge everything he thought he knew about his past, his choices, and what really defined success. The next morning, Daniel stood outside the gates of Sunset Studios, a steaming coffee in hand, staring up at the familiar yet distant silhouette of the sound stages, the painted numbers on the buildings, the security guards at the entrance, even the faint smell of fresh lumber from the set builders. It all came flooding back like a half-forgotten dream. A black SUV pulled up, window down. Adam waved him over. "Hey, you made it, get in." Inside, Jennifer greeted him with a wide smile. "Welcome back to the madness." As they passed through the lot, Daniel's eyes darted to the production assistants running with clipboards, set decorators carrying huge props, costume designers hustling between trailers. Despite the chaos, there was an energy that felt oddly comforting. The car stopped in front of Stage 5. The three stepped out and walked past a large sign. Murder Mystery 3, final week of shooting. Inside, the cavernous space was transformed into a replica of a lavish Mediterranean villa. Golden light filters were placed strategically to mimic the coastal sun. Extras in tailored suits and flowing dresses milled about, waiting for their cues. Adam leaned in. "Some things never change, huh?" Daniel nodded slowly, soaking it all in. It was as if the years had peeled away. An assistant director approached. "Mr. Sandler, Ms. Aniston, we're almost ready. Can we steal you for a quick rehearsal?" Adam turned to Daniel. "You okay to hang around? Watch from the monitors?" "Of course." Daniel stood back as the stars walked into position. Watching them work up close was mesmerizing. The natural rhythm between Adam and Jennifer had only sharpened over time. They teased lines, adjusted timing, and improvised effortlessly, drawing. Chuckles from the crew. Between takes, Adam wandered back over to Daniel. "Crazy, right? The whole machine just keeps going." Daniel smiled. "I'd forgotten the pace and the pressure." Later, as lunch was called, Jennifer pulled Daniel aside to show him around. They passed by massive racks of costumes, stacks of script revisions, makeup artists prepping actors for the next scene. "I used to bring my own lunch when I was an extra," Daniel recalled with a soft laugh. "No catering for the background players." Jennifer gave him a knowing look. "Extras are the backbone. I never forget that." They sat under a large shade tent. Over salads and sandwiches, the conversation turned deeper. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you stayed?" Jennifer asked gently. Daniel paused, gazing across the lot, where young production assistants rushed about, their eyes full of hope and ambition. "I used to," he admitted. "But walking away was the right choice for me. Teaching gave me purpose. There's a freedom in not chasing something that doesn't love you back." Jennifer nodded slowly. "You're braver than most." As the afternoon wore on, Adam rejoined them with a mischievous grin. "Hey, I talked to the director. We're short an extra for the next crowd scene. How about stepping back into the magic just for today?" Daniel laughed, caught off guard. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Jennifer said. "You'll be background in a casino gala. No lines, just vibe. One last cameo for old time's sake." Nervous excitement surged through Daniel. Before he could overthink it, he found himself being handed a tailored tuxedo. In the wardrobe trailer's mirror, he barely recognized the figure staring back, a reflection of a life left behind, momentarily revived. As the cameras rolled and he moved silently through the elegant, fabricated world, Daniel realized something profound. The set, the lights, the crafted perfection of it all, it was still intoxicating. But now he viewed it with calm detachment, knowing he could appreciate it without needing to belong to it. The director called, "Cut!" and the room erupted into applause for a perfect take. Adam and Jennifer found Daniel in the crowd and clapped him on the back. "You crushed it," Adam joked. Natural talent. The laughter was genuine, warm. Daniel felt at peace. It wasn't a door reopening, it was closure. On his own terms. As the sun dipped low over the studio lot, Daniel knew the moment had come to return to his real life. But he walked away not as the forgotten extra, but as a man who had finally completed his scene. The following morning, Daniel checked out of his modest West Hollywood hotel. The suitcase he had carried up was now heavier, not with clothes, but with emotions, conversations, and the weight of unexpected closure. Before leaving the city, Daniel stopped at Runyon Canyon, a place he used to hike in his 20s when the pressures of auditions and odd jobs became too much. The sun rose steadily over the hazy skyline of Los Angeles, casting long shadows over the winding dirt trails. As he walked, Daniel replayed the surreal events of the last 2 days. Standing alongside Adam and Jennifer on a film set again, sharing honest conversations, being treated as more than a fleeting extra, it had shifted something deep inside him. It wasn't validation, it was resolution. Halfway up the trail, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Jennifer. Jennifer, hey, just wanted to say again how good it was to see you. Stay in touch. You've got 2 fans for life. He smiled warmly and typed back, Daniel, thank you both for reminding me how far I've come. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. A second message followed almost immediately, this time from Adam. Adam, next time you're in LA, lunch is on me. Or maybe we'll crash your classroom one day. Daniel shook his head with a chuckle. The absurdity of Adam Sandler visiting his high school in Fresno was enough to make him laugh aloud. As the trail leveled out at the top, Daniel sat on a bench overlooking the sprawling city. It struck him how small Hollywood seemed from this distance. The once insurmountable mountain of dreams and disappointments had become just another part of the landscape. He thought about his students, the shy ones who barely raised their hands, the troublemakers masking their insecurities, the rare few who dared to say they wanted to be actors, filmmakers, or musicians. For years, he had told them to chase their passions, but also to value who they were outside of those ambitions. Now, for the first time, Daniel understood his own advice completely. The drive back to Fresno was long, but peaceful. Mile after mile of California highway gave him space to think. Rows of vineyards, golden hills, and the wide blue sky replaced the glamour and noise of Los Angeles. That evening, Daniel pulled into the familiar parking lot of Roosevelt High. He parked and stared at the empty football field bathed in twilight. Tomorrow would be a regular Monday, papers to grade, lectures to give, teenage dramas to mediate, yet everything felt a little different. At home, Daniel unpacked. As he hung his old tuxedo in the back of the closet, he paused. Tucked inside the pocket was the golden reel invitation, slightly crumpled. He smiled and pinned it on the small corkboard above his desk, next to student photos and handwritten thank you notes. He sat down, pulled out a legal pad, and began drafting his next lesson plan. The title at the top read, Chasing Dreams versus Living. Life, Understanding Success Beyond the Spotlight. His phone buzzed once more. A notification for an interview request from a local paper. Word had already spread that Fresno teacher appears in Murder Mystery 3 alongside Sandler and Aniston. He shook his head again, amused at how life had a sense of humor. Daniel leaned back in his chair, breathing in the stillness of home. He had left Los Angeles on his terms. The past was no longer a question mark. His story had found its arc. Tomorrow, he would walk into his classroom, not as the man who had almost made it in Hollywood, but as the man who had chosen purpose over fame and had no regrets. The bell at Roosevelt High rang sharply at 8 a.m., signaling the start of another day. Students filed into room 214, chattering about homework, weekend plans, and the latest viral video. Daniel Reyes stood at the front of the classroom, calm and prepared, just as he had for years. A flyer was taped clumsily to the door. Mr. Reyes featured in upcoming Adam Sandler movie. Ask him about it after class. Daniel shook his head with an amused smile as the students took their seats. A hand shot up immediately. Mr. Reyes, is it true? You're in a movie with Jennifer Aniston? A wide-eyed sophomore asked eagerly. Technically, yes, Daniel replied, holding back a grin, but only for about 3 seconds, so don't blink. The room burst into laughter and applause. Daniel allowed the moment to linger before clapping his hands to bring focus back. All right, today's lesson, we're going to talk about success. Not the Hollywood kind, the real kind. He turned to the whiteboard and wrote in large letters, Success Fame as. He lectured. Daniel wove in his own experiences, not to boast, but to illustrate the unpredictable nature of life. How plans change, how the definition of fulfillment evolves. His students were wrapped in a way they rarely were. This was more than curriculum. It was life advice. At lunch, Daniel sat in the teacher's lounge sipping lukewarm coffee. His colleague, Ms. Gonzalez, peeked in with a knowing smirk. "Heard you were brushing shoulders with the stars. Got any autographs for me?" Daniel laughed. "No autographs, just a reminder of how good I have it right here." The afternoon passed quickly, and as the final bell rang, a few students lingered behind. Mr. Reyes, one of his seniors, Alex, said quietly, "I've been thinking about applying to film school, but I'm scared. I don't want to fail." Daniel paused before answering. "Alex, chasing something big always feels scary. I've been there. But remember, your worth isn't tied to whether you make it or not. Do it because you love it, and no matter what happens, you won't regret it." Alex nodded slowly, eyes wide with understanding. Later that evening, Daniel sat on the bleachers overlooking the empty football field. The Fresno sky turned a dusky purple, the first stars appearing faintly overhead. His phone buzzed one last time. A photo message from Adam. The image showed Adam and Jennifer, both in costume on the set of Murder Mystery 3, holding a sign that read to Daniel, "You'll always be part of the cast." Daniel smiled softly, touched by the simple gesture. He saved the photo, knowing he wouldn't need to show it to anyone. The real validation had come from somewhere deeper, the knowledge that he had contributed even if quietly and had helped others along the way. The wind picked up slightly. Daniel zipped his jacket and stood to leave. The field lights flickered off. His story had never been the blockbuster tale he once imagined, but it had become something better, authentic, grounded, and complete. As he walked across the parking lot toward his car, Daniel looked back one last time at the darkened school building. He didn't need the applause of an audience. The purpose he had found here was more enduring than any fleeting spotlight. Tomorrow would be another ordinary day, and for Daniel Reyes, that was everything he had ever wanted.